right, welcome back. I have to move this up a little bit. We're going to get started. We're on Module 3 and we're making great time. So we're going to work through Module 3 and then take a lunch break. And then we'll have one more this afternoon. So, we've talked a little bit about what ERM is and kind of a little bit on how we do it. And we're going to kind of remind everyone why we're doing it. In this module, we're going to talk about why PIH is implementing ERM and how it differs from traditional risk management. And this is a piece that most folks have, it can be a little bit confusing. So we'll spend a little time in that and then just reiterate the benefits, because ERM is enterprise-wide. The benefits should be enterprise-wide, and we'll talk about how they affect each level of the organization.
Okay, so in the first two modules, we heard a little bit about enterprise risk management and what it is. We saw the risk cycle. And in this segment, what I want to do is explain why PIH is actually in the process of implementing ERM. Well, you heard me talk about earlier in the first module that it's a industry-wide best practice. If you go to private sector, you go to any publicly traded corporation, you're going to find an ERM practice in place. Just go out and do an internet search, and you'll see volumes and volumes of information on some of the best run companies in the world using ERM as a best practice. The federal government operating environment, we're going to talk about that in just a moment, how it's starting to embrace the concepts of ERM, and you're going to hear a lot more about that in the next 3 to 5 years. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the gaps in traditional risk management. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how it allows PIH to address risks strategically across its portfolio. Clearly, we've been doing risk management for quite a while in PIH, but we've never had a strategic approach to it where we look at it as a portfolio of risks and manage it with one overreaching strategy. That will change with the implementation of ERM. And the greatest benefit, I think, from doing this is a more efficient use of our resources. As we know, over the past several years, we see dwindling budgets, which means dwindling resources. I just saw an email recently where it talked about our net loss of employees for federal fiscal year 2015. I don't have the numbers memorized, but the one thing I noticed is it was something like 285 new hires and 512 departures, something like that. I don't know if those are the exact numbers, but the takeaway from that was, boy, that means we have less people. And each time we have less people, that means either more work for each of us that are still here, and some of us are several years away from calling it quits. Those of you that are calling it quits next year, you're going, well, not a problem for me. But for the rest of us, it is a problem for us. And so we have to become more and more efficient in the way we use our limited resources, and ERM gives us the opportunity to do that. Okay, so I mentioned this a couple times now, but can't emphasize enough, it's not just some harebrained idea that came out of PIH to try to implement ERM. If you go look at the world's best run companies, those ones that are highly admired, go look at their financial reports. They're going to tell you they have an ERM practice, and it's well developed. It's been in place for over a decade, the concept of ERM. Going back to the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations, or COSO, first issued their standards in 2004, so that was 11 years ago. And what this really does is it gives organizations a risk-based approach to managing their operations. So we've had this concept in the past of risk management. We had this concept of internal control. What ERM really has done is blended those two concepts into one concept. It's really an evolution in the way organizations are managed. So think about, and somebody had asked me, do I have an automobile example from, well, I do have one for here. Think about the cars built in the 60s. So if you're, I'm an old time car enthusiast. I'd love to have a 65 Shelby Mustang, way out of my price range. But if you've ever driven a car that was built in the 60s, then you compare it to my 2007 Shelby Mustang that I do have, it's night and day difference. And the difference is the evolution from 1965 to where we are in 2015. You know, we didn't have Bluetooth in our cars back in 1965, but the 2016s do. And that's the same thing with how we manage organizations. We first learned about managing risk, we learned about internal control, and as we evolved in understanding how to manage organizations, this concept of ERM came into play. So it integrates that concept of internal control, risk management, and strategic planning. It really is the evolution of well-run businesses, and you're going to hear more and more about this, not just in HUD, not just in PIH, but as you follow what the federal government's doing in the next several years. And this leads to the concept of the operating environment for the federal government. I mentioned this earlier, but it's worth repeating. Earlier this year, OMB issued circular A11, an update to it. And in A11, that's the document that's used for policy guidance for federal agencies that are putting together their annual budget requests. There was a section in that document that strongly encourages federal agencies to start adopting enterprise risk management. They're currently working on a revision to A123. That's the circular that gives guidance on management control and the implementation of FMFIA. And there's going to be language in that document, I've seen drafts of it already, that strongly encourages federal governments to implement ERM. There's a GAO audit going on right now of PIH. What was one of their first questions they asked? Where are you with enterprise risk management? And fortunately, because of this training and because of the working group, PIH was able to answer, we're kind of ahead of the curve on this one. We already have a risk committee. They're already meeting. We have a risk division. We've already done one cycle of annual risk assessments. We are in the process through this video and through these 10-city training this summer of training. Our goal is to train every employee in PIH to understand what we're trying to accomplish with our ERM practice here at PIH. Judy?
You've seen this slide before, and we're introducing again because this is again the why. We talked about these are some traditional risk management funnels. Risks are reported up through each of these tools, and we definitely take a look at cross-cutting risks when we do ERM. And I'd like to take a moment and talk about the risk between these reporting tools. Sometimes there's something we call an orphan risk. It's a risk that is an outlier, that is a one-off, that can be identified when you go through ERM, but it may not be come through one of these reporting issues. I worked for an agency recently that had such a case. They were reporting risks and they were having a conversation, and someone said, we have a very senior level position, and we posted it, and someone internally had to apply for it. In talent selection, sometimes you can build or buy. This was not one you could buy. You had to come from within the organization and been trained. And I'm not going to say the name of the agency, but you would understand why. And this is a major facility. They needed a very senior level person. They posted the job, and one person applied for it, which is not great. And so they had a discussion. They talked about, let's talk about why this is. And this is about 2010. And then most of you remember that was a couple years after the financial crisis. And every agency has been dealing with budget cuts. And this agency was no different. And in the past, they would pay to relocate senior people. They would pay localization. So if they were moving to a more expensive city, they would pay for it. And they weren't doing that anymore. And so folks were looking at this job and saying, no thanks. And guess what? My house is underwater, so I'm not moving. And this agency said, this is what we call an inherent risk. We have a huge risk. And they were looking forward, and they saw that, in fact, within a couple years, 65% of all their managers were eligible to retire. So they decided they had to take action and set up career pathing and succession planning and talent pools and incentives to start moving. Because as of today, 65% of all their managers are eligible to retire. So much like here at PIH, they are facing a very, very short-term talent shortage. And they can't buy this talent. They have to build it. So that's why it's important to look between the silos. And that's not necessarily what traditional risk management offers. So we talked about between the silos. In addition, there are risks that come from outside the organization. This can be something like a sequester, a pending government shutdown, an inspector general report, something that's happening on the Hill that is not coming up through these traditional risk management silos. And that is all part of the ERM discussion. Someone talked about projects. When you're running a project, say in IT, and you have a lot of dependencies, whether they be within the organization or outside the organization, you may have a very tight schedule and very small float to get things done. And someone you're dealing with who is also, you've got a dependency on them, may not see it that way. This is not as mission critical for them. And that actually can be something that can create a lot of problems for you. With ERM, these kind of discussions happen. And this inconsistency in risk appetite and the way people approach risk can have lasting effects across the organization. So these conversations are very important. If I've got an IT system that I've got to implement and I'm dependent on you, you need to understand why. My time schedule is very important. The other thing Wendell talked about was reduced return on investment in the use of resources. If every entity within an organization keeps dealing with the effects of the same risks, such as systems that aren't working, or maybe taking too long to get something done, they're all dealing with the same problem again and again and again, and that creates something called waste. And ERM is designed to reduce waste and improve efficiency. Most importantly, it is designed over time to prevent some of these things that we're seeing happen. We call that prevention reduces something called the fix-it factory. In Six Sigma, it takes a lot longer to fix something once it happens than preventing it from happening in the first place. Risk management, traditional risk management is great. It's designed for specialists, those who are doing work with PHAs. Yes?
One thing that you haven't mentioned, maybe you're gonna mention somewhere down the line, in dealing with risk in
Yeah.
the IT world,
Yeah.
I like the fact that it also provides accountability.
Well,
And I know you were saying all the other things, the transparency,
Mhm.
accountability, and I love that because if I have a risk coming that I know is gonna affect my performance,
Mhm.
I gotta get it out there. I've gotta be transparent and let the people know that first of all, this risk is coming.
yeah.
It's on me, and this is how I'm going to mitigate it, or how I'm going to, if it's going to be avoided, how I'm going to approach it, and the impacts and probability. I've got to be able to do these things because if I'm held accountable, I've got to be able to come up with a way to say, I know I'm accountable, but this is what I'm doing to fix this.
Well said, and thank you for that, because that ultimately is why organizations implement ERM. One of the major drivers for ERM was the financial crisis of 2008. And a lot of those organizations thought they were protected. They had derivatives, they had hedges. But what they weren't aware of was those counterparties to those risks. Were they protected? And once those counterparties went, we saw in 2008 a lot of dominoes fall. A couple years ago, a really well-regarded corporation had an issue much like this. In the December of 2013, I was shopping and I just put my credit card back into my purse, and I got a call from the credit card company, and I thought, did I spend too much? Could be. And in fact, it wasn't the case. They told me we are going to cancel this credit card and issue another one. Does anybody know what that might have been for? December 2000. Pardon? I had been shopping at Target Corporation. And I was in good company because 40 million debit and credit cards were hacked, affecting 70 million customers, Target customers. Their personal information was also, emails and phone numbers were hacked. But Target also is a great corporation, had some advance notice that this was a possibility. 2 months before this happened, their IT security group notified their managers that there was a risk, there was a vulnerability. And within 2 months, the hackers came in through a single vendor, laterally cut across all of Target's systems, and went to their pay system. So every time we put our card through, they were collecting that information. So for some end users, they may have had some fraudulent charges, which was a pain. They had to change their debit and credit cards. For Target Corporation, they paid a price for this. Their revenues from 2012, the last quarter of 2012 to 2013, dropped 46%, from 961 million to 520 million. And in the private sector, which focuses on profit and loss, that's not a good thing, not to mention their reputational harm. So in fact, their CEO and all the members of their board were fired. And the proxy advisor to Target, and his report said really what this is a lack of vision and risk management. So to Wendell's point, even good corporations have had to turn around and start implementing ERM, and Target is one of those better corporations, and this could happen to anyone. So there are lots of reasons to do it, and it looks at the enterprise. So these folks at Target, or maybe folks at OPM, could have seen the potential for not paying attention. And you were talking about accountability. It builds in some accountability. If I've got a risk matrix, and I saw 2 years ago that this was a risk, and whatever probability impact had been assigned then had changed and nothing was done, then at least there's a record of it. So it does build in accountability. And it lets you look at the portfolio, all the things that could happen from a single risk. And again, we use the same risk matrix across the organization, the portfolio view. And, not only is our folks within organizations tired of having to deal with the consequences of risks and the outcomes of them, the public is getting a little bit weary too. Someone mentioned Hurricane Katrina. That was not a great example of being proactive and handling, I'm not talking HUD, but I'm talking government-wide. The financial crisis is another example. Robert Charette is a senior risk consultant, and he pretty much said, just like us, we're all citizens, we're tired of being caught flat-footed. We're tired of not being able to react more quickly. We're tired of not being able to plan for these incidents that affect so many people. So that is another reason why risk management is going to be more and more important to PIH and to government as a whole. Because we're in a period of change, it seems like, change is just all around us. And there are different ways to handle change. Looking at patterns and predicting responses and planning for them is something we call proactive change. Reactive change is being in a constant state of firefighting. And I think sometimes I know that I feel like that, and a lot of folks feel like that too, but that's not sustainable over time, especially when you have limited resources. When you have fewer people doing the work, it's not sustainable. We have to move from reactive to proactive. Reactive change in crisis. Can anyone think of an organization that might have had to deal with this recently? OPM. They're an organization that's having to react under tremendous crisis. A private sector example was the auto industry, the U.S. auto industry in 2008. And I think there's a wonderful example on Yammer of a facility in California called NUMMI. If you get a chance, I highly recommend you look at it. And they talk about how the U.S. auto industry turned around. So, traditional risk management is specialists. It's people who know their area. They may be in the financial area, they may be operational, they know PHAs, and they're doing great jobs managing risks. ERM looks at it differently. It's moving from tactical to strategic. So it is more of that long-term planning that you're talking about. We're taking a long-term look at risk and finding long-term solutions. But a lot of these solutions may not be within the purview of the function who is affected by them. And again, it's integrated with strategy setting and really more efficient management control in a rapidly changing environment. Does anybody know who Dr. Karen Hardy is? Or is it just people who care? Yes, I see a hand in the back. Who is Dr. Hardy?
She's a enterprise risk management specialist, doctor.
And in what sector does she work? She's in the federal government. And Dr. Karen Hardy has been really leading the way. She wrote an excellent book on enterprise risk management, and she actually consulted with PIH on your enterprise risk management framework. And another way of understanding ERM, we like to use analogies, is ERM is not an aggregation of risks. Sometimes when you have traditional risk management, you get all these risks. You may have a list with 500 risks. In and of themselves, they're like metaphorical bricks. If you get a lot of bricks at the end of your driveway, you may not know what to do with them. But ERM allows, through the cross-functional dialogue about risk and the prioritization at the enterprise level, that strategic look at risk, ERM is mortar that takes all those individual risks and makes sense of them for the enterprise. So we call that the brick wall metaphor, and now you've learned about an expert in enterprise risk management, which is Dr. Karen Hardy. I used to work for a company that was known for marketing, and we always talked about features, functions, benefits. You never went to market without features, functions, benefits. The great thing about enterprise risk management is there are benefits for everyone across the organization, as there should be, because it is enterprise-wide. So we'll take a quick look at that. For senior leaders, provides a portfolio level view. We were talking about a uniform risk management framework. It's very important. Consistent communication of PIH risks and risk-informed strategic planning. There's a lot of overlapping with PIH staff. It's also risk-informed strategic planning. I think those fewer sudden shocks and surprises could be reducing firefighting or those unwelcome events that happen during your day that kind of disrupt your schedule. Reduced fraud and waste and improved planning. And for PIH as a whole, how many of you had heard about FMFIA before you got here today? A few folks. So now we know how important that is, and we know, better yet, we're in compliance with it, which is even better. It's a management process. It's a new way of doing management, proactive, cross-cutting risks, and I think my favorite is a risk-aware culture, because this will evolve over time, and your roles will be defined over time as this rolls out. So enterprise risk management covers the organization, and the benefits cover the organization as well. So last slide. Are there any questions? Nope. All right, very good. Well, I think then we're going to break for lunch and come back at 1 o'clock. Thank you.